So in this week's business class, we're going to be covering the basics of developing a business plan. This is the most important step, in our opinion, in developing a business. Without something like this, at least in our experience, we found that we lacked direction. So having all those plans and points, everything plotted out already, it kind of gave us a roadmap, if you will, of where we needed to go next. So we found our business plan to be hugely helpful. So we're going to pass a little bit of what we included in our business plan on to you. So the first step in developing an effective business plan is research, research, research. And that starts with researching other services in your area. Who's offering what? What markets are saturated? What markets are not? What gaps can you fill? Resources to kind of research what's in your area. Google, Bing, Yelp, all those major search engines. Just kind of put some feelers out there, see what other folks are doing, what they offer, and what kind of market you may have. Next step, what kind of client base is in your area? And break it down on a number of levels. So socioeconomic status, is your area a vacation destination? Do you have a lot of tourists in your area? Things of that nature, because those are all going to have an effect on which services are going to sell and not sell in your area. In our area, for example, we are right on the edge of the Rocky Mountains, so it's a pretty popular tourist destination. We see a lot of destination weddings here, so we tailored one of our websites to cater to the wedding clientele. Once you've kind of figured out what services are offered in your area and which services are not offered in your area, and you've kind of looked at what your demographic is and who you're really marketing your products to, it's time to find your niche. And your niche is your target demographic. If you do not like wedding photography and you're focused more on portraiture, then you're going to have a different niche than somebody who's focused on wedding photography or somebody who's doing wedding videography or what have you. So finding that niche. And there are niches within each of these too. So let's say you're a wedding photographer, but you prefer the posed style. That's a particular niche. There are other people who are going to prefer documentary or candid style wedding photography, which is much less scripted and planned out. So there are niches within each of these groups, and it's really important for you to define your niche. If you know what it is you like to shoot, that's going to make it easier for you to define your niche. If you're better at one type of photography versus another, again, these are all things that are going to help you find your target group and who you should market to. Once you figured out what your niche is, look at ways to reach your niche or your target demographic. Once you've identified your niche, you've got to find a way to reach that niche or demographic. If you're in an area such as Florida, where there's a much larger population of folks pushing those senior years, Facebook might not be your best option. Whereas if you're in Denver, where it's a very young community, Facebook, Instagram, things like that might serve you very well. So find a good way to reach your target demographic. Again, once you've kind of identified your target demographic, really narrow in on what services you want to offer. Once you've identified the services that you want to offer, take a good, honest look at what you do differently, at what you do that's unique, at what you do that you consider to be better. And remember, better is subjective. So take a really good, honest look at what it is that you do and how it is that you do it that sets you apart. Once you've done that, finalize the services that you want to offer. Once you've identified and cemented the services that you want to offer, consider these two things. What are you passionate about? And is it marketable? If you're passionate about it, but it's not marketable, it's no good to you. If it's marketable, but you're not passionate about it, you're not going to probably be very good at it, and it's going to end up hurting your business in the long run. So you got to find that really narrow margin that fits both those categories. Once you have an idea of the services that you want to offer, and you've taken a good, honest look at those services, it's time to decide on a business name. There are a few things to consider when picking a business name. First, is it unique? Second, is it memorable? Third, is the website available? I will share our story with you. So, please, we invite you to go to sheepdogproductions.com. You will see it is pleasantly parked by GoDaddy. It's been there for a number of years. And sadly, the gentleman who owns it does not want to return our phone calls. So don't make our mistake. We found a way around that, of course. So we have a sheepdog.productions website and a sheepdog.photography. But it would be really, really nice to have sheepdogproductions.com. Again, learn from our mistake. This is a mistake we made early on. Once you've determined that the web domain is available, make sure the Facebook page is available, the Instagram page, the Vimeo, the YouTube, the Flickr, all of those different pages where you're going to be able to reach your clients potentially, make sure those are available. If they're not, you're going to run into continuity issues. You may have a Lily Rose photography website here, but because the Facebook was taken, you're going to have Lily Rose Photography Colorado or Florida or what have you. Make sure it's available across all those domains so it's pretty easy for folks to navigate across. This one's not so important, but it does help out in the long run. Once you've done all that research regarding the name, it is time to trademark. And welcome to the wonderful world of business where everything costs money, including trademarks. So, trademark process. You're going to go through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. They're going to charge you tons and tons of money because it's the government. It's what they do. So first, once you've decided on your name, make sure it's not trademarked too, and we should have covered that a little bit earlier, but we're getting to it now. When it comes time to trademark the name, there's a bit of a process to it, and it's a 6 to 8 month process. Initially, what you're going to do is you're going to submit the initial application. They're going to want a payment with that. I think it's in the vicinity of around $300. Submit the payment, and then what they essentially do is they kick the business world hornet's nest. And they see if anybody comes up and says, hey, no, don't let them trademark that company name because it's very similar to mine and I offer a very similar service. So, that's a breach on my business. So they basically let those hornets swarm for 3 to 6 months. If nobody gives you any pushback, at that point, they'll come back and say, yep, your trademark is approved. They're going to ask for a couple of things upon the approval of the trademark. They're going to ask for an example of that trademark in use. So one of the examples, if you're a photographer, you'll have to send them a photo with your watermark or your trademark on the photo as you would use it when you provide your photos to your clients. So for those of you photographers out there who watermark your final products, and that watermark is what you're trying to trademark, that company name or that logo or what have you, they're going to want an example of that. And then for those of you filmmakers, they're going to want an example of you using your company name or your logo in a production. So let's say you did a short film, and at the beginning of the short film it says presented by sheepdogproductions.com. They're going to want an example of that presented by page to see your watermark or trademark or logo in use. So that's going to be the last thing that they ask for, along with, of course, another payment, because why not? After that point, you've spent all the money, the trademark is yours, you effectively own that business name or logo. So once you've completed the trademark process, which we certainly recommend doing early on, because at that point, if anybody else tries to use your business name, you're protected. After that step, it's time to look at pricing. So a few things to consider with pricing. First, what are your business's operational expenses? So you gotta think, if you have any active loans for equipment that you purchased, that's gonna have a monthly charge. Insurance, monthly charge. Do you have a studio? So if you're renting a studio space, obviously that's gonna be a recurring monthly expense. Any subscription, so if you have a Creative Cloud subscription like we do to Adobe's Creative Cloud, that's going to be part of your monthly expenses. Do you have any subscriptions to websites? Are you paying monthly premiums on website domains? All of those things are going to roll into your monthly business expenses. So figure out what those are. Then figure out what it is that you need to survive. So rent, food, gas, feeding the dogs, all that fun stuff. Once you've got an idea of how much your business needs to run and how much you need to survive, then figure out what your tax rate is in your area. If you're paying 30% taxes, then you need to take all of that, add 30%, and that is what you need to make a month. If your tax rate is 25%, then you need to take, your monthly expenses plus your business expenses and add 25%. And then once you know that, you know how much you need to make a month. So let's say, for example, your total monthly expenses with taxes included is $4,000. and you want to be a wedding videographer, and you know you can complete 2 wedding videos in the span of a month. That means you need to charge $2,000 per wedding video. Now it's time to look again. Does your target demographic support that? If it can, if you're from an area where that is a reasonable price to ask, then you're all set. That's kind of a basic breakdown of how you should structure your pricing. And I understand a lot of you may be working a part-time or even a full-time job outside of this, or this may just be something that you do on the side. All of these things are going to have an impact on what your monthly targets need to be, but this is just kind of the breakdown that we use. So for example, we've determined in our area for what we have and what we want to do, our goal every month is right around 7,500. And bear in mind too, there is 2 of us. So we're covering double the ground. So that's built into how we price our different packages. So if we do a portrait shoot, we know we have 1 day to edit it, and we have to charge a minimum of X amount of dollars. If we do a wedding shoot, then we know we have to be able to edit it within the span of about 5 days, and we have to charge a minimum of X amount of dollars. So we've kind of broken that out, and we also know that we need to walk away every month with at least X amount of weddings or X amount of video projects or what have you. So we've kind of built that into our pricing, and now comes the next part. We call this make it legal. So in making it legal, make sure you're getting your tax ID number or your EIN, employer identification number. That's provided to you by the federal government when you establish your business, whether it be an LLC or a sole proprietorship or what have you. You need to get an EIN. That allows you to effectively file your taxes as a standalone business. Once you've gotten your EIN number, you're going to want to register with your local Secretary of State. Again, both of these things cost money. We apologize. You thought you were broke in college? Just kidding. You're a business owner now. Now you're really broke. We understand. We've been there. It takes, on average, 2 to 3 years to get out of that point where you're actually making money over just covering your basic operational expenses. Nature of the business, I'm sorry, folks. Hopefully it's faster for you. It's been pretty quick for us, but that's just your average. So after you have your EIN number and you've registered with your local Secretary of State, we absolutely recommend getting a separate bank account for your business. We do not recommend using your personal bank account to manage your business expenses and income. It gets really easy to blur the lines that way and miss things when it comes tax season, which, believe me, it's a nightmare. But if you do get a separate business account, you can manage your income, your expenses. You can get business checks. You can actually get a business debit card. It makes it really, really easy to track everything coming in and going out. And you can check that separate bank account to see where the business actually stands financially. So that is a really, really good way to keep track of everything with your business. Once you've set up that business bank account, make sure you're tracking all your income and your expenses. Keep receipts. Take photos of your receipts. Digitize everything you can. Make sure you have duplicates. When it comes tax season, this is going to pay off in dividends. If you cannot afford an accountant, this is going to help out immensely. If you can afford an accountant, it's still going to pay dividends later on. One of the big killers of business is incorrectly filing taxes, and then the IRS comes back, says, hey, you missed a bunch of taxes, and you don't have that money in the bank account to cover what the IRS is demanding of you, and that puts businesses underground. It plots your business, if you will. So don't let your business get plotted. Make sure you're keeping track of everything. Make sure you're putting away money from all your income to pay taxes later on, and make sure it's the amount that you're going to have to pay in your area. So if it's 33%, then 33% of your income should be going directly to your business savings account and sitting there to the end of the year when it comes time to pay your taxes. Or if you do it quarterly, then. But make sure you're saving the money to do your taxes. Now, I touched on it earlier, but insurance is really important. In fact, most places will not allow you to shoot there if you don't have corporate insurance. A lot of wedding venues will not allow you to do it. A lot of state parks will not allow you to do it. A lot of cities will not allow you to film or photograph if you do not have corporate insurance. So that's a big one. We happen to have our insurance through the Hartford Group. They've been fantastic for us. They're really, really easy to work with. There may be better options out there. We happen to go through them because we bank with USAA, and USAA is a military bank, and so they provide us some pretty fantastic discounts. that may be the way for you to go. There may be something else that's better out there. So look at what you need for your business, and that should help you determine who you get your insurance through. And I did touch on it just there, but permits. Always, 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 always have permits. In the Rocky Mountain National Park, which is, again, on our doorstep, if you're caught shooting without a permit, the fine is hundreds of dollars. The permit's like $50. Get the permit. It's not worth the hassle. And if you're out there with a client and somebody approaches you and says, hey, where's your permit? And you don't have it, it's gonna look like you have egg on your face. It's a bad look. Nobody looks good at what you're, where did that saying come from? I don't know where that saying came from, but you know what? Nobody looks good with egg on their face. So don't let it happen to you. Get your permits. This is your warning. It's only because we love you. It's not because we want you to pay money to the federal government. It's because we want your business to survive. So permits, please. Yes, do it. Thank you. And that leads us on to our next point, finding clients. This is tough. This is not easy. We're gonna be honest with you. Finding clients is surprisingly difficult. But here are some of the things that worked for us that'll hopefully help you out. Get involved in your local chamber of commerce. This will put you in contact with the movers and shakers of your community, and it's going to build a network for you. These are the folks who have the money for your services and who are probably looking for your services. So if you offer commercial video services, these are the guys who are going to want you to build a video for their business or for their social media. These are the folks who are going to want good company profile pictures of their CEOs or their COOs on their website. So when people visit their website, they have a nice personalized picture of their management right there welcoming their clients to the page. So that's what they're going to come to you for. So get involved with your Chamber of Commerce. Again, welcome to the business world. Nothing is cheap. For us to get involved in our local Chamber of Commerce, it's $750 a year. It's expensive, but again, it puts you in contact with the big wigs in your community. And on top of that, a lot of chambers of commerce will have a newsletter. And oftentimes you can advertise in their newsletter for little to no cost at all. And that goes out to all the other major businesses in your area. So for that price, you can advertise not just on the newsletter, but in your weekly or monthly forums. And again, it's just going to help you network. And if they don't have a need for your services, they may know somebody who has a need for your services and recommend you. Next up, we have a couple of interesting services, and I'll explain both to you. But first is Thumbtack, and we love Thumbtack. The way Thumbtack works is clients or potential clients post a need for a job, and then industry professionals bid on the job. And then the client goes through all those quotes and picks whoever they want to provide that service. So the way it works is when you quote on a job, you do not get charged for quoting on the job unless that potential client responds to your quote. Now, bear in mind, is it expensive? Absolutely. When a client for a wedding responds, generally it's going to cost us around $50. But, you know, if we're closing that wedding for $2,000, then that's $1,950 that we made in profit. So still very worth it. We get a ton of our clients that way. And if you take the time and you differentiate yourself and you personalize your quotes, it makes you stand out. We close about 75% of the clients who actually respond to us on Thumbtack. So that's a really, really good ratio. The next up is Bark.com. Now, Bark is very similar to Thumbtack, the major difference being you're charged per quote that you send out with Bark. But that charge per quote is much less expensive. It's like $10 to $15 for a quote, and you get charged whether they respond or not. Another great way to network and build a client base is Facebook groups. So we, for example, we are members of Galena's Casting out here in Colorado. We're also members of Mile High Photographers out here. And jobs get posted there all the time, or people are looking for a second shooter, or they're looking for extras, or what have you. Great ways, and that's no cost to us. That's just, hey, the job pops up, we can bid on it, or we can offer our services, and they will pass that information on to their client. If the client likes it, then they pick us. Hey, we just got that job and it didn't cost us a penny. Another good way to build a client base is meetup network events. So meetup.com, you can sign up as a small business owner in your field, and they're going to post weekly or monthly meetup sessions. For example, us out here, we have like it's like cameras and beer or something like that. And basically all the photographers and filmmakers in the area get together in Boulder, have a couple of beers and talk shop. And not only is it fun, but it's a great way to meet other industry professionals, figure out what worked for them, figure out what didn't work for them, and maybe you're going to walk away with more tools for your toolbox. Also beer. And the last one is going to cause you physical pain, I promise. Build your portfolio, which means do free work until you have a good portfolio. I know, I can hear you groaning from behind the camera, but it is effective. If you don't have a good portfolio, you're not going to get hired. So you're probably going to have to eat a little bit of crow, do some free work until you've built an effective portfolio, and then you can start to up your prices and say, okay, well, you know, I don't need to build my portfolio anymore, so I'm not going to take any more free work. But until you've reached that point, hey, I know you hate it, that dreaded word exposure, but it's real. It helps out. It'll make a difference. So build that portfolio, take the time, do it right. And even after you've established that portfolio, there may come a time where you want to branch into a new service, or you find that one portfolio is lacking versus another. So you want to do newborn and maternity photography, and you've got a lot of newborn photography, but you don't have much maternity. You might have to do a couple of free maternity shoots down the road. Then this may be after you have a successful newborn photography business. So it's something that you may have to do and you may have to revisit a few times throughout your career. But you can strategize with it, you can be picky about it, and it won't happen as often. The last thing, and this is probably the most important, do business with integrity. I was taking a small business course, and it flat out said, businesses that operate with integrity are 78% more likely to succeed than businesses that do not. And that seems like common sense, but that integrity breaks down to a number of things. Be upfront with your pricing. Don't tack on 10,000 other things when the client thinks that they're getting a wedding package for X, but it's X plus travel and this and that and the other thing. Make it within reason. When you start to tack on those things, you'll see the lights disappear from your potential client's eyes, and they're probably going to walk. Be upfront with your pricing. Even if that means making your pricing significantly higher upfront, they're going to be very appreciative of the fact that that is the pricing that they can expect. You shouldn't have a client who signs a contract and then at that point you're saying, okay, cool, well that's for the contract, but by the way, there's a $200 travel fee and there's room and board, so I expect a fee for that and I want you to cover X, Y, and Z. It's guaranteed to give your client a bad experience, and that bad experience is probably going to be reflected on a review on your website, and especially when you're starting out, a single bad review can sink you. So be careful, be upfront, be honest, have integrity with everything that you do with your business, and that will set you up for success. It's what we do, and a perfect example of that is we signed up for a company that helps push our website towards the top of search results. And one of the services that they offered was review management. Sounds nice. Realistically, what they were going to try and do is if we got a bad review, they were going to flood us with a bunch of fake good reviews to make that bad review essentially disappear. And it was included in the services that we got with this package, but we told them we do not want that. Do not, under any circumstances, do that because it's fake and people will see it. And we don't want that. We would rather provide a better service up front and not have to worry about it than chintz on our service, end up with a bad review and have to fall back on you guys to fix it for us. So, just one example, but always operate with integrity when you're running your business. All right, and that is all for this week's business class. Thank you so much for sitting through it. We will be back next week with more fun stuff, which will probably cost money because it's a business, right? See you next week.